Yeah, my name is Gene Crown. I'm going to talk about the 13th Amendment. Sort of glad to be here because I'm in some sure good company. But anyway, we're going to talk about the original 13th Amendment first, which most people probably never even heard of, the Title of Nobility Amendment. So we'll just read a little bit here and see what it says. It says, if any person of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor, or shall without the consent of Congress accept or retain any present, pension, I think present here is probably a gift, same thing, pension or office of annulment of any kind whatsoever, from any emperor, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office or trust or profit under them, or either of them. Now, the Constitution mentioned 2 or 3 different times about title of nobility in here. Now, this here was ratified March 12, 1819. And we know the Constitution wrote in 1780, whatever it was, I don't remember when it was finished. So, the title of nobility was mentioned in here several times for a reason. And the reason it was is basically anybody accepting the kind of gift. Now, the reason they didn't put this in here first is because when they talked about it in the original Constitution, they didn't put any kind of penalties in here for anybody accepting this title of nobility or gifts or anything from anybody. Now, so they came back later, and this was to penalize the people who accepted these gifts. Okay? Now, the Founding Fathers, and we all know by now that we are the kings and the queens of this country. We are the sovereign people of this country. These people here, nobody is supposed to sit over us in anything. No lawyer is supposed to represent us. No judges are supposed to be anybody with honor. You know, like when you go in the courtroom now, the judge comes in, got his black robe in, everybody rise. That ain't right. We shouldn't. We're not supposed to be rising to that judge. But just let me read you a little bit of something here about the title of nobility. In 1983, archive research expert David Dodge and former Baltimore police investigator Tom Dunn were searching for evidence of the government corruption in public records stored in Belfast Laboratory in coastal Maine. By chance, they discovered the library's oldest authentic copy of the Constitution of the United States printed in 1825. Both men were stunned to see that this document included the 13th Amendment that no longer appears on the current copies of the Constitution. Moreover, the studying of the amendment language and historical contents, they realized that the principal intent of this missing 13th Amendment was to prohibit lawyers from serving in government. Now, and that's the most, and here we are now, having probably most of our congressmen and senators up there all lawyers. Okay, the most bizarre constitutional puzzle in American history, the unlawful removal of a ratified amendment of the Constitution of the United States. And authentic to the American Constitution, it is evident that it is correct and no logical error that has been made. A 13th Amendment restricting lawyers from serving in government ratified April in 1819 and removed from the Constitution during the Civil War. So, you know, they had to get this out of here to get everything twisted around. And it talks about the Civil War here, but now the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments was all Civil War amendments, okay? Just clear that up a little bit. Since this amendment was never lawfully repealed, it is still a law today. I mean, it's still a law. You don't hear about it because they don't want you to know about it. And this is a very important document, I think. Now, the missing 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States reads as follows. If any person in the United States Well, we just read it, so I won't read it again. But I think it goes back to Article 1, Section 9. It almost reads exactly as it does. It's put a little bit more in here than that. But they reference this to the title of no bill, the Emperor's King Prince, leads us to dismissing the amendment as a petty and post-revolutionary act in spite direct against the British monarchy. But and they want this amendment can be ignored. But see, that's not true. It's too important. The title of no bill was published in both Articles 6 of the Articles of Confederation, 1777, Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution of the United States in 1778. Second, though already prohibited by the Constitution, an additional title of no bill amendment was proposed in 1789 and again in 1810. And according to Dodge, finally ratified in 1819. Okay? So clearly the founding fathers saw such a serious threat to entitlements of nobility and honor that anyone receiving them would forfeit their citizenship. Okay? Now, even though title of nobility has already been prohibited by the Constitution, it was obvious that the amendment carried much more significance for the founding fathers than is readily apparent today. I'm not going to read all this because it's too long. It's about 20-something pages. I'm just going to hit on a few highlights on this thing to let you understand how important this thing is. And if anybody needs a copy of this, don't have a copy of this, and wants a copy, needs a copy, just contact me and I'll be more than glad to give it to you, because everybody should have it, should read it. So, see, like Doc was saying a while ago, now the United States always has stood as a historical marker for the rest of the world, and every other form of government wants this thing thrown at and try to squash it if they can. And though it stood like a beacon of hope for the world, the monarchies regarded the United States as a political typhoid marriage. The principal source of the radical democracy that was destroying monarchies around the world, the monarchies must have realized that it is the principal source of the infection and could be destroyed. The rest of the world may avoid this contagious, and monarchy would be saved. So they're trying to save the powers, the kings and the queens is what they were doing. Knowing they could destroy us militarily, they reported to more covert methods of political subversion, skilled in bribery and legal deception. It was since governments ran on money, politicians run for money, and money is the enticement to commit treason. So much of the monarchy's counter-revolutionary efforts emanated from the England banks. See, the modern banking system, I won't get into that, that's just too long. But anyway, I'll just read a few little things here on the banking system. The modern banking system manufactures money out of nothing. The process is perhaps the most astonishing piece of sleight of hand that was ever invented. Banking was conceived in inequity and born in sin, and bankers on the earth. Okay. But if you want to continue to be the slave to the bankers and pay the cost of your own slavery, let the banks continue to create and control the credit. Okay? Now, if you don't think that the bankers won't put you in a bad way, just look what they've done on the savings loan. What they call them, Beacon 5, whatever it was. Anyway, on that savings loan deal. Ongoing relationship between bankers, lawyers, politicians, and government agencies. And we're talking about the BCCI bank scandal involving lawyers, Clifford Clark, politician Jimmy Carter, and the Federal Reserve, and the FDIC, and even the CIA. They are scandals and are a direct result of years of law breaking by an allegiance of banking and lawyers using their influence and money to corrupt the political process and to rob the public. So if you don't think you're not being robbed, who do you think going to pay back all these billions of dollars that BPCI or BCCI swindled us out of? They stole more money than all the wars, and since this country has been here, it's cost us more money than all the wars, even up to now. So don't think you're not being robbed, because guess who's going to have to pay all that back?
My question is what does this have to do with the 13th Amendment?
Well,
the original.
The original one? This
Right.
is the original 13th. This
Right.
is just going into trying to explain what's happened through the banking system, because the lawyers, the bankers, naturally, the Federal Reserve Bank, all the bankers have to get these lawyers in here to do all their own analysis.
Well, your point, it looks like to me, is what you're driving at, is that this 13th Amendment was actually upheld at this moment. That none of this stuff that you're talking about right now could never have took place, because it couldn't have been a citizen of the United States.
That's true. See, then the Founder Father knew this. They knew what happened in England and all over the world. See, you have to put yourself in their place where they came from. They knew what it was like. So they were trying to make this a better form of government for us, to keep us from having to go through what they went through before. So and they knew what they was talking about. I really think they knew what they was talking about. And on this 13th Amendment, this systematic robbery of productive individuals by parasite bankers and lawyers is not a recent phenomenon. It just goes on, and I won't go into all this, because we can talk on this. But to just show you now how strong these lawyers and bankers are. Lawyers and bankers and judges are. See, they even passed the Judicial Immunity Act of 1789, which comes under Title 28 of the United States Code. Now that means that the lawyers, the bankers can do no wrong. Whatever they do on that bench is fine. It don't matter. And they're totally immune from anything they do. So that's just, and that's the judges. So that's the reason the Founder Fathers didn't want anybody of honor over us. And that's about all I'm going to say on that original 13th Amendment, because we could just go talk about it on and get on into this thing. But should be enough said on that. Go ahead.
What makes them think that it really wasn't ratified?
But it was.
The original 13th Amendment. Why does it? They say it's not actually ratified.
Well, they just started. They don't even want you to know about it. How many times have you ever heard about it until you got this study group? You never heard about the original 13th Amendment, and probably very few people out there have. And now this thing's not dead either. This David Dodge's still working on this. I believe you might have some things on that, Ken, somewhere at the house, don't you? Where he's coming up with some more stuff.
Right.
I'd like to see that. I think you got it. But
what do you remember? What stopped it from actually supposedly being ratified right after that?
No, it was ratified.
Right, but what actually stopped it on the last state from ratifying the actual event that stopped it from actually being ratified? What occurred? What event?
Maybe it was the War of 1812, Gene. Remember that war came in?
Well, now the war did come in, but see, it was ratified after that, though, Doc.
I know, but they didn't, that's why it's not in the archives,
Oh,
so to
okay.
speak. They bring
Now,
that face
now, the
down.
War of 1812 might have been the reason for this, the whole reason for this title no bill.
Right, they burned all the archives.
Yeah, that's right. It could have been.
1812 war was started by the International Bank.
Yeah. Almost all of them were started by bankers.
And Gene, you know what I'd like to say?
What's that, Doc?
What's happening now is, with this study that Mr. Dodge is doing,
Right.
what they have tried to say when he's written to some of these congressmen people, what they have tried to say that no, this number of states did not ratify it. You follow me? What they were saying is, now listen, at the time, I think, if I'm not sure, there was 17 states in the Union. And with Virginia in 1819, that made the 13 of the 3/4 requirement. During the process, they had added other states. You follow me? During the Senate process. And that's why the Congress people are writing letters back to Dodge saying, no, at that time we had 24, 27 states. And it would have taken 20 states ratified. And even if you were right, only 17 ratified. What did he come back and say to verify that? This is what he's saying at this point. He's saying this. No, that's not right. When we proposed this amendment, and it was only 17 in the states there, I don't give a darn if 40 comes in later, only 17 is required to vote on this proposed amendment. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, that's throwing that out the window. So now he's got another letter doing more research on it, where it's kind of pinning them against the wall now. So something's going to happen to that, Gene, because of that. But I just wanted to bring that in. Excuse me.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. In fact, Doc, I believe it's in here somewhere. If I can just find it, I won't spend any time looking for it.
All the representatives present at this
Here
one
it is, right
meeting, where they got 17 states to ratify it.
They got, it was no question about the legislatures proposing it, okay?
But hey, were present, the representatives of the states, was that 2/3 of the people present for the representatives?
2/3 of, that was done in the House and in both houses. You had 2/3 for proposed amendment. It went out to the state legislatures. All of the state legislatures amended it early until Virginia did in 1819. But during this same time, while this amendment was out there, other states was admitted to the Union.
Right.
And that's when they said, no, and it had to go up now for the states until the 3/4, which was 17 with Virginia, it now has to be 20. But we only have 17 states who's actually amended this Constitution. So it does go into effect, so that's the latest strategy, I think.
Good.
See, now, you was talking a while ago about bankers. Let me read this little deal right here about bankers. It said, bankers commit many crimes. To escape the prosecution from the crimes, the bankers did the same thing any career criminal does. They hired and formed alliances with the best lawyers and judges money could buy. So, yeah, bankers do a lot of things. That's about, I mean, we could talk about this, it's 20 pages here, and we could talk about this probably for another hour or two. But anyway, the best thing to do, if anybody wants a copy of it, you need a copy of it, you need to read it, and just get a hold of it. I'll be more than glad to get you a copy. If anybody else got any questions on this thing before I'll start on that, how the amendment that's in the Constitution now, unless somebody got a question on this other banking deal, or the original 13th Amendment. Okay? Well, all right, we'll just say. Okay. Now, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime, whether the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Now, like we said a while ago, this is the Civil War amendments, 13, 14, and 15, and what you're talking about here is United States citizens. In any place of their jurisdiction, so it does not affect state citizens.
The sovereign of the state,
Sovereign
that
citizen,
does not affect all.
But now, you know, everybody thinks that this was the 13th Amendment was to free the slave, okay? But now, I can't find anything in there where it says it freed anybody. It don't say anything about freeing anything. But now, every time, the doc pointed out the other day, every time they always talk about, the white people in it, they always talk about freedom, okay? They always talk about freedom. But it never says anything in here about anybody being free, does it? Not a word about freedom.
Don't say anything about free, just mention slavery and servitude, which is both slavery.
Yeah.
Either way you go.
But what they did here was basically tried to free the slaves supposedly, which they didn't, and now everybody knows we didn't, or everybody in here knows we didn't, but they caught us all on the 14th, we'll get on to it a little bit later. But now, you know, we was talking a while ago about slavery. And I think every group of people in the world, every race of people has been enslaved at one time or the other. White people own black slaves, black people own black slaves, black people own white slaves. Every race of people have been enslaved at one time or another in this world. And so it's not and this slavery thing is not a slavery issue. It's a human issue, I think. And like Lincoln said, I believe Lincoln said, or one of the founding fathers maybe was, we're all free or nobody's free. That's just basically how it works. And I could talk a little bit more about this 13th, but I think that's just about hits on.
It did change masters.
Yeah, I guess they did do
It put
that.
all the
Yeah,
black
that's a
people
good
underneath
point.
the government
Yeah, that's a good
as
point.
servants of the government.
Yeah, it sure changed the masters, all right. But has anybody got any question on this? Anybody got any questions on this this original? I mean, this 13th Amendment? Doc, you got anything?
No, I think everything you said is right. It's, that, like you said, the only thing it's saying up there, it's saying that the white slave owner could no longer have slaves. It's very important that they didn't mention freedom. That's a strange phenomenon. I just found out after reading this thing 14 years the other night. And when I said to my wife, I said, honey, it doesn't say anything about we're supposed to be free. She said, boy, you better get out of here. You know, she said, some of these guys will shoot you. But you remember now, the Emancipation Proclamation, Lincoln talked about freedom. But so what? That's the Emancipation Proclamation. It's not the law of this country. He talked about it. He said in January 1st, 1863, he said, all persons, small p person, held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people thereof shall then be rebellion against the United States if they got slaves. And they shall then, thenceforth, from hereafter, shall be forever free. Now, from that Emancipation Proclamation, it doesn't sound nothing like that. It said nothing about free. See, freedom, when we start talking about Article 1, all of your states at that time, all states, they only talked about in all of their constitution, free, free, free. The free white man, the free. And they talk about, even in the beginning of this constitution, it talks about your relationship to government. And the only place they mention is start off to saying that your only relationship with government is to vote for those representatives. And you must be a what? Free person. Now that's all. That's the only thing we need to tell you. Now, you haven't done that up here. You have not said those people free. You are talking to the man who held slaves here. You're talking to them. Now listen, you all know, I have heard, and I'm sure you know, but I have heard people say, I think Judge Judy said that when you have a contract, the contract only exists between the four walls. This is the memorial, all of the contract. Now that's all of the contract. You can't stretch outside of the four walls of a contract and add and say, yeah, you're free. By law, you can't do that. You have to go by the terms and the four walls of that contract. And I don't see anything in there that said I'm free. Excuse me.
No, you're right, Doc. That's
Question.
good. Thank you.
The part there it says within the United States. I have heard so many things about the corporate United States. Since this was after the Civil War, could it possibly be they were saying that let's just put this in and make sure that none of this slavery could go on within the 10-mile square area of the United States corporation?
You know,
It doesn't say several.
that's a, I tell you what about that. That I have gone over that in my mind. But if I exclude when they say within the United States, they are trying to incorporate all of the states. But when you read it like it says there, it could mean within that corporate United States. And you will find that throughout all of the amendments. I'm using a sleight of hands, I believe, So if you read that, you might think it means only the state. Now, the only reason I can say that it might mean within all of the several states is because we remember one thing, that we said the Constitution could either put further restrictions or correct something. We gave them a chance to correct that with Article 1, Section 9. It did mention slavery. But that's a good question, but I'm not sure about that yet. Maybe some of you all can be sure, but I'm not sure.
I don't know, but cities or any place subject to jurisdiction, so I mean, it wouldn't.
And too bad, what you got underlined. Too bad.
Which it probably wouldn't just count to
Bad.
10 square miles, see here?
Rather than
Or
possession.
any place subject to there, and then jurisdiction where that's.
What there is a possession of a
Where they have
group.
jurisdiction.
If it had been singular, it would have been its, I believe. I don't know. I'm just trying to, first, just something to say. Okay? Any other question? Do you see what I'm trying?
With the jurisdiction point,
Okay.
their jurisdiction is not over the 50 compact.
Oh, yeah, we know that. But it just says anywhere in their jurisdiction, so wherever the jurisdiction
It would
is.
be 10 miles, like
Well, or
Ken
any,
said,
well, it could be,
You're right.
10-mile area,
Yeah.
their
It could be.
jurisdiction.
It could be. But I haven't got that completely, clear in my mind yet. The only thing I can go by is the word he has underlined there, which is there, which means there would mean the possession of more than one. If it had been one United States, it would have been its jurisdiction, I believe. That's just, but I've wrestled with that. And all the amendments we'll see is going to be, that kind of question is going to come up. That same question will come up in every amendment.
You know, you think,
Sure.
I got a question about this involuntary servitude.
All right.
You know, back in the 60s, when a lot of those people were protesting in Vietnam, and they quit the draft, you think drafting had anything to do with that involuntary servitude?
Well, that's a good question. I thought about that. And if I draft you into the service, that is involuntary means. Servitude isn't it?
True.
Yeah. And I remember them fussing about it back then, and they shut the draft off somewhere in the
They
late
shut it
60s,
off.
I think.
All right, but now let me go one step further. We had a person who volunteered. Now we volunteered to go in. So we've done away with that. That's not involuntary servitude. But then you take a young man and he volunteers to the United States and you make him wear another uniform. Is that not involuntary servitude?
Yeah,
If you
now,
know-
That is right.
I knew one.
Well, I don't know his name.
Yeah.
That's just questions.
Yeah. Everybody got any more questions on that thing? We'll see if we can.
Let's read that second half of it up there. Gene, what does it say?
Oh, okay.
Second section.
Okay, Congress shall have the power to enforce this order by appropriate legislation.
That's new, isn't it? That's a total new animal there. That's a totally new animal that they're sneaking in on you. Power, enforce. Congress never was given
First
power to
time they
enforce.
used it, wasn't it?
That's the first time.
They sure was.
That's the
Did they
executive
use
department.
that on the 12th?
Maybe so, I don't know. Look at,
Congress only has the right to legislate.
that's it,
They
right?
do not have the right to enforce. They give the federal courts the right.
And the executive.
No, they didn't say it on the 12th. They sure didn't.
Is that the first time?
That's it.
Yeah. And from now on, you're going to see them starve. They're enforcing. They're the big people. Otherwise, they're saying enforced by legislature that they're trying to get
Well,
by.
see what they're doing now. They're trying to catch everybody here. That's the reason they're putting that. See, before, on the 12th, 11th and 12th, they didn't have everybody caught. They're trying to catch us all right here. Or in the 14th, they will, I think. Yeah. That's what you want me to read that second part.
Okay.
Anybody else got anything on it? About you, Walt?
Nope.
Doc, you got anything else?
No, that's fine. Now we're going to, the name. This one, we're in that, and then get that action. Just ready for you. All right, how's it look up there? That's good.
Other than that, Jim, Ken, y'all see that?
All right.
Okay. Okay. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States, which would have been a small c, which made them federal citizens, and to the state and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any laws which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any citizen of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction equal protection of the law. Now, like you said, they're talking about here United States citizens. I believe that's right. Is that not right, now?
That's right. That is a new phenomenon. First time it ever been used.
You got your Black's Law Dictionary there, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
Look up that, number 6. Look up, see what it says about privileges and immunities.
Well, it was
See, what they're doing here, they're trying to catch all of us on this 14th Amendment.
let me show you. Here's what it says. I have that, Jim.
Okay.
Here it is. It says privilege. There is a privilege. Now remember the privilege that in the original Constitution, it's a noun, and it's a capital P fixed in a proper noun. So therefore, those were special rights that I have added. Follow me?
Okay.
Now then, when you get down here to the other one, the privilege, which is the verb, those are given privileges. So anybody who give you a privilege can do what?
Take it away.
Amen.
So in other words, all they're doing right here is the citizen of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities.
Doesn't this,
What they're saying, I'm giving you all privileges. You're for all these privileges and immunities, but who's giving them to you?
Yeah,
The United States.
right. Dear old government.
Yeah. Question, man.
doesn't this come under what Ken was talking about, the subject to the jurisdiction thereof? Thereof means you're one second that you're the jurisdiction thereof.
Well, see, if you come under
It
their
could be
jurisdiction.
of all 50 states.
Well, that's
that
true.
jurisdiction.
Well, another thing, Walt, you might think about here now on this thing, if you're coming under their jurisdiction, under a contract, and I think it's all the 14th Amendment is about, is contracts, it's keeping us all under contracts, then you're coming under their jurisdiction.
Under those four contracts.
Yeah. But see, now this Article 4, Section 2 talks about a little bit about privileges and immunities, right?
But that's capitalized.
Well, I know, but I know this is state citizen, and I know this for the sovereign here, but they just, yeah.
Do you believe that there's any significance now, because for some reason now they're starting off with citizen as such with a low c, with a small c, where all the way through the rest of the Constitution, all the way up to this point, it's a capital C. Why would they go and put a small c in this amendment?
On this, you talking about right here on the citizen?
Yes. From
Because
that,
that's letting you know it's a federal citizen. Anytime it's capitalized, it's supposed to be a state citizen. Small c is I'm glad you brought that up. Now, is that not true, Doc?
Well, that person, that's an unimportant person. Now remember, listen, this is my interpretation. If I am a capital C person, I am what a proper noun. When I am a small person, or a small c, I'm no longer a proper noun. I was trying to see if I had anything written on that.
You want to look at this in black law?
Yeah.
There's about a page and a half of definitions of privilege, so
Okay.
I'll
Well,
let you pick out the one you want to, right there.
Okay. This is right. Let's see if I can make it citizen. Go ahead. If I had that, I need the dictionary. What there should be is a capital C and a small c
Yeah.
on citizen. Now remember this one. Now think about this. If this citizen prior belonged to a proper person, this citizen here is created by an entity. It's created by a creature. Now, if man created government or created its constitution, then man, when he created citizen, if man created government and it's an artificial entity, anything that the artificial entity creates, it too must be artificial. So this citizen here would not be the same citizen that the founding fathers mentioned over here. This was a creation of a fictitious body called a government that man made. And man turned around and made himself a citizen. That's just my explanation. But it's a general term. In the privileges here, you got tort law, exemptions. Okay.
There's glossary on citizens.
It says citizen. Now look, one who is under the venue and jurisdiction of the District of Columbia. Follow me? See that? And its territories. See, that's one that's created, that's one I was just talking about. It was created by the government. And he has civil rights that is protected and related by statute. Who makes statute? Legislatures, Congress. You follow me? That's that small c citizen that we were talking about. Now let's look at this other citizen. Citizen of the 50 states that are not under the Buck Act. Citizens of the United States, citizens of the 50 states that are under the Buck Act. Now, they mentioned that citizen of the United States is with the capital C, not under this Buck Act. This Buck Act, I don't want to get off into that. That's another thing that brought them all in. But they got these 3 citizens identified here. But like I said before, it verifies what I said that I was just mentioning off the back of my head. I'm glad this one agrees with me. Now it says another citizen, one who under the Constitution and laws of the United States has a right to vote for representative in Congress and other public offices, and who is qualified to fill office in the gift of the people. Reference from Bouvier 8th. So I was glad I was kind of close. I must have been at that convention.
You must have read that. Walt, you got any questions on that? Ken?
No.
What about you, Carol? Nothing? Well, I guess we're going to section 2. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting a whole number of persons in each state, including Indians not taxed. But when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for President and Vice President of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of a state, or any members of the legislature thereof, is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state, being 21 years of age and a citizen of the United States, or in any way free except for exception for participating in rebellion or other crimes. The basis of representation therein shall be reduced in the proportion which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of the male citizens 21 years of age or older, or in each state.
Any questions?
Such state.
Any questions? Anything new? Anything that's new?
Yeah, there's a couple of things we need that.
You're a citizen of the United States, just point blank there.
Got it.
I mean, not several
But
states.
see,
What's the most glaring thing that's new in there? Can you see it? something that's glaring.
Can we point it out?
Point it out. There.
Male and have each other discriminate.
First
See what I'm
time,
saying?
first time ever.
I'm trying
mentioned
to,
it.
I'm
Well,
trying, that's right. I'm trying now, I'm trying to get you asleep. I'm going to slip this in on you. So now later on, I can bring you this 19th Amendment and make you women think we've been discriminated against you. See, I got to keep you separated? I'm planning. The devil don't plan last night, it's constant. He got this male thing here. We never had that before. Because when you look at the capital P person in the original Constitution, that means man, woman, and child. I don't need to talk about male and female, because if you wanted to get your rights, my lovely ladies, because I always say, if God made anything better than a woman, he kept it for himself. Because God gave her the thing that he had, the magic of creation. So don't make it appear that men hated women. You see, so therefore they had the right to just go to the Supreme Court and say, look, we can't vote, we can't do this. And it says all persons, capital P, which include woman, man, and child. Do you see? Okay, I'm sorry, Jim.
No, that's good, Doc. You done good.
Thank you.
See what they're doing here? They're putting a spin. They're putting a spin on these amendments. Now, up here in this section 1, what we talked about, back in the articles, they talked about Article 4, Section 2. Now, they just put a spin on that Article 4, Section 2. Now, what they've done here is put a spin on Article 1, Section 2 and 3, I think. That's basically it. That's them lawyers twisting everything and catching, trying to make you believe. When people read that, they talk about seeing citizens and blah, blah, blah. They think it affects all of them, but it does not. If you're not a federal citizen, it does not affect you. Now, that's just the way it is too. And they're trying to catch us all under contract. Remember what he said about contracts a while ago. Anybody else got another question on it?
I'd just like to mention this on that article on section 1, clause 1 of this. I want you don't have to bring it down, but I want you to go back and read it. But you're going to see in there, it's a little twist where they take away the powers of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights were restraints on the states, on the government. The government has now turned it around where the Bill of Rights is restraints on the states. You see? And that's not the way it was intended. That's why all these states, that's why they're saying, but you read, and I haven't got a pin on, without due process of law, the states came, okay? So now what I'm saying then, if one of your friends walk in our church, and we talking about Christ now, I'm not giving them due process of law. You follow me? Because I'm talking about Christ. Even though this is a Christian nation.
Right.
But I'm saying when the states begin to discriminate against you for any reason, you're not receiving due process of law. You see? That catches everything. So that's why you can't burn this on the, you can't burn this, you follow me? They changed it with that amendment. That amendment thing has changed everything. You go and look at the abortion thing. That amendment is what it's based on. Nobody really brings that out. That's the amendment that they quote in Roe versus Wade. It's a dangerous, dangerous amendment. That's question. Question, Walt.
What you got, Walt?
They start counting the whole number of persons, and then they segregate it by just the male inhabitants.
Yeah.
They double talk their way into it.
Well, it's like Doctor just said, they lay the groundwork for coming on in to capture the women. That's all. It's all scams. You know, every word in there means something it is, but just put the twist and spin on something else. Ken, you have a question on me?
That part about rebellion, Doc, what do you believe is the difference between a rebellion and somebody that has the right to change the form of government? About the fourth sentence from the bottom there.
Participation in rebellion or other crime.
Oh, that's the exception? Okay, here's the exception. Okay, exception for participating in rebellion or other crimes?
Well, other crimes seem like that's pretty well broadened out, doesn't it?
Well, I guess rebellion would mean it could be within, could it not?
I mean, is that jaywalking?
Well, well, it sure could be. Probably against rights. you
I
know.
mean, isn't that kind of a vague type statement to put in something like that any other time?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't say infamous.
Yeah. They're here they're still talking about that vague type of person that they just made. So they're talking about it vaguely. You know how they're trying to punish the South so much that this is the worst written amendment there was. Everything was written, like you said, it was haphazardly. Anything that I could find to put in this too, I'm gonna put it on it. And that's why. But now when we go further, I can prove to you that this thing was never properly ratified. But that's another show. But yeah, that could be all those crimes, anything. See, this is where I have to control these people now. I have to do everything now to control. These are my people. These are my spoils of war. Now, anything that I do, I have to protect them. You right here talk about, you discriminate me because I'm a white man. Who are you? I got to protect my people. The hell with you. Huh? Are you following me? That's why you said, that's why, and same token, you're mad with me because what they're doing for me. Instead of getting at the people who are doing it.
Yeah. In other words, if you own somebody, you're gonna take care of them.
Huh?
What you just said. If you own somebody, you're gonna take care of them. They're gonna take care of their own people. Anybody got any other questions on that section 2? Yeah. How you doing? Name?
Right.
About right? Drop it down a little bit.
Right there. Perfect.
Well, let's see. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress, or electors of president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States, or under any state, who's having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress, or as an officer of the United States, or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid and comfort to the enemy thereof, the Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disabilities. Well, I think they're talking about their holding 2 different jobs, if that's not, they're talking about the South now. That's like he was talking about the South a while ago, they're gonna spank the South, and that's basically what they've done. And I think they're talking about holding 2 different jobs at the same time, or in this rebellion or resurrection, see what this said about rebellion, okay, yeah, insurrection or rebellion against the same. Now they're talking about people that served in the military, probably in the South, or was in the Congress or Senate at the time, or in the Congress at the time during the Civil War, maybe. What do you think? Is that the way you read it?
That's what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Because you must remember, they're saying here, they're still punishing. You know, these people are green now. What happened is that they said that, you remember when we talked about the 13th, when they called themselves no more slavery in this country. When they did that, 7 of the southern states voted for it. 6 of them. They voted for that one. Then when they came in and offered this 14th Amendment up, those states voted against it. And they put them out. They said it never was readmitted into the Union. How can that be? How can they go here in 1865 and vote for 13 in 1868 because they don't vote for this one? You put them out? That's what happened. That's what makes it unconstitutional. But, and then we have a case called...
unconstitutional, the whole 14?
Well, it wasn't done by the way that it was spelled out to be. The 14th Amendment wasn't. You know, for example, let me give you an
So
example.
you're talking about the 5 states the southern states that was rebellion against the Union?
Yeah, when the 13th Amendment was ratified, Louisiana, Arkansas, South Carolina, Alabama, North Carolina, and Georgia, they voted for it, for the free slave, so to speak, that's what we call it. And with these states' ratification of the 13th, with those 6 states, the 27th state would not have been, because it took 27 states of the 36 at that time that was required, okay? Now, when they proposed a resolution for the 14th Amendment, I got them all listed. Texas rejected, all of them, the Day rejected, and where you can find them. All of them rejected. So then they forced them out of the Union, and they called it Rump Congress. And they had one southern state that they didn't punish, I think it was Tennessee. But this amendment, then they put them out of the states, but how can you put them out when the Supreme Court ruled in White versus Hart, 13 Wall, 647, that the Supreme Court held that at no time were the southern states out of the Union. So you kicked them out to approve this, and they had already rejected it. Follow me?
So after they got that approved, they just said, well, we'll let them back in.
No, not did they just say that.
The Supreme Court decision, what did it say?
The Supreme Court said they never was out of the Union.
Okay.
Now look,
Okay.
now what they did was, oh yeah, they let them back in. They sure did. But they let them back in at the point of a bayonet. They told them the only way you can get back and take your seat back in Congress is you have to accept this 13th Amendment. 14, I'm sorry, yeah. You see?
Yeah.
And they wasn't out of the Union, so why would they treat that way? But people are waking up, I believe.
Does anybody got any questions on that? But you know what we're talking about here, the old job, I got something I want to ask you about this.
All right.
We're talking about holding 2 jobs, and that's basically what this thing is about, I think.
All right.
Now, how can Clinton be the president now and telling them airlines what to do? He has to be in another capacity, because we sure don't give him that authority under the Constitution, do we?
No. You don't.
I just wondered about that.
Yeah. But that man, you know, a lot of times,
Unless he's a king.
that's what you remember? When folk boys could get down, they wanted a king.
Yeah.
Don't tell me about what he's doing is wrong, because he's been doing it for so long, everybody ticking for king, man. You got the man come, he come to Houston today. Everybody out here be blocking the highway. Get back, the president's coming. And that's your servant. God Almighty. I can't believe it. He ought to be blocking the traffic for you. That's what all those servants are supposed to do. Benjamin Franklin said the best thing that we can do is have our servants come back amongst us so they can gain the power that we have and not continue to live as a servant. And we treat them like king. Man, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. God knows I don't understand it. They're supposed to open the door for you. And man, you kill me. If somebody says something about somebody up there, oh man, what do you say? You can't talk about him. That's your servant. You can't talk about him. He's not supposed to talk about you.
You sure can't talk about the president, they'll show like you up there.
Right? I tell you, that's your king. So he's got to turn the airlines, tell them when to turn right and left.
This too would take the power away from the leadership that was in Congress, was in the southern states. I made a little note here. I think I'm right on this, Doctor. I don't agree with him not, but what this does was deprive the South of the experience and responsible leadership. Some of this leadership provided the nation with some of its best elements of political wisdom. And so on July the 9th of 1880, I can't read my own right, 1886, 1856? No, it can't be. Must be 86. Anyway, President Johnson give them all a full pardon, so in full amnesty, and so with unconditional thing, and I think that's the reason that they impeached him. In fact, he's the only president we ever had impeached, so he went directly against them and freed these people, or give them immunity, what did I just say? Pardon them, okay? And I'm real sure that's the reason they impeached him and kicked him out. One of them had killed him. Doc, do you agree with that?
One vote, yeah. They impeached him, let me tell you, they impeached him because he didn't agree with this guy, Seward, who was, I think, the Secretary of War. Even though they disliked him all the time, because they never even submitted that resolution for the 14th Amendment to him. And that's against your articles here, I think 1 and 7.
They didn't do what?
They have to present every resolution as if it was a law. And every time you do that, look at 1.7. It will says every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary shall be presented to the President. This was never presented to the President when Mr. Johnson was President. And they impeached him, and they said it because he got rid of the Secretary of War. His name was Seward, S-E-W-A-R-D. Now, you see how easy you can impeach people? You don't have to miss a crime. Impeachment did not mean a crime at that time. Anything you did wrong. They have impeached federal judges for blasphemy, profanity. Man.
On this, it seems to me like on this, every section in this Article 14 that we brought up, doctors found something wrong with, so the whole thing must be totally illegal. I mean, I can't, so far, I don't know, so if it never was ratified, and, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Jim, how are we doing on the tape?
End of tape, time to cut it.
All right, go ahead, and I'll pick it up here in just a minute. On the next.